Good morning children, how are you? So you have just come back from your vacation. I hope you are doing well. We are starting 6th standard history and please open your textbook page 1 and let us get started. Just I will write it here because I have the map. So, we are doing the first lesson, the Indian subcontinent and history. So, what is history? When you say history, what is the image that you get? Okay. History is everything in the past. It is a set of account of the significant past events in the progress of human culture. So, let us say for example, you talk of Shivaji Maharaj in the past. So, what all factors are going to make history? History actually stands on 4 major pillars. There are 4 pillars or 4 components that make up history. The first one is the time, the second one is the place, the third one is the society, and the fourth are the individuals or the people. So, everything together adds up to make history. So, these are the 4 pillars. So, let us take an example of Shivaji Maharaj and the history related with him. So, you have learnt about him in 4th standard, 5th standard. So, what happens when you look at the past, what is the time frame from when he ruled? There are so many number of years and which place? That was in Maharashtra, the society in that time, in those days, and every single individual. That is what all these together, these 4 pillars comprise to give history. So, what happens here is, when you say history, actually place is a very important component in addition to time. So, when you say place, it also means geography. So, geography and history are inseparable in that sense. So, when you look at man, from when he has gone from Stone Age to the very recent agricultural civilizations that have flourished on the banks of river, there is a relation between how the place has impacted the movement of history. For instance, on in plains, the land is very fertile. So, the crops can be grown, so there is no dearth of food grains. On the other hand, if you look at hilly regions, mountainous terrains, there man finds it difficult to cultivate. So, how does he fend for himself? How does he feed himself? He depends mainly on hunting, gathering. So, the history of that place will be impacted by the geography, the location. So, as you can see, history and geography are inseparable. It also impacts their lifestyle. The weather impacts it, the place impacts it. So, over a period of time, they move to the next level. So, as you can see, geography has a very important bearing on history. So, then even the types of houses, if you see on page 1, the different types of houses based on the location. This chapter is about the Indian subcontinent and history. So, let us look at it from the Indian perspective. So, when I am talking of India here, we are talking of ancient India, the regions that were most important in ancient India. So, I am going to rub the board now. We have 6 different regions and we will look at it. Just briefly let me explain it to you and then we can go one by one. There are the Himalayas in the north, the Indian Ocean in the south, we have Bay of Bengal east, Arabian Sea west. This is India now, but when we are looking at history, we are looking at ancient India. Let me write it down for you. So, this is with regard to the ancient Indian topography that we are talking of history. The first one, as I said, was the Himalayas, that is at the very northernmost part of the Indian continent. So, that comprised of the Hindu Kush mountains. This is actually a political map, but if you turn to page 4 of your textbook, on the top you can see this area. So, what happened in those days was in ancient Indian history, the Himalayas were a barrier to the other part of the world. It was like a big wall between India, Hindustan and the Hindu Kush mountains and the Central Asia. But what happened was, there was a land route. It was through Khyber Pass and Bolan Pass. That was the only route and people used it. Foreign travelers came through that route. Even the invaders have come through that route, and it was also called the Silk Route, because silk was a very big commodity that was being purchased by the western countries. So, all that happened here in the northernmost part, which was the Himalayas. Then we have, that was the first region, very important in our history. The second region, that is the plains of the Sindhu, Ganga and Brahmaputra. These were basically 3 very big rivers, and the basin of these rivers was very fertile. So, the area stretched from Sindh, Punjab here to the northwest, all the way to the present day Bangladesh. So, what happens is, it is like this. So, and again this we are talking about ancient Indian history. The third region we have is the Thar Desert. Thar Desert was again the area covered by Rajasthan, here Haryana and a little bit of Pakistan, which falls outside the Indian territory. So, the Rajasthan, Haryana accounts for about 85% of the Thar Desert, the other 15% lies in Pakistan. And there are some old civilization sites that have actually that are dry now, that used to be very fertile before. The fourth region is the Deccan Plateau, and again you can always turn back to your page 4 and look at the The Thar desert in your textbook on page 4 is a orange triangular picture that you can see. There you can see the Hindu Kush mountains, you can see the Sindh Ganga Brahmaputra region, you can see the Thar desert. The fourth region that was significant, very important in our history is the Deccan Plateau. So, Deccan Plateau is everything. Again, if you can turn to page 4, it is this huge region between the east and the west coast, and south we have Indian Ocean, the whole area from here to here. Now, here you have to notice one thing. When we say Deccan Plateau, it is actually surrounded by water on 3 sides. The Bay of Bengal, Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea, and here you have land. So, we learn a new term today, an area that is covered by water on 3 sides and land on one side is called a peninsula. So, what is it called? An area with 3 sides of water and one side of land. What is it called? Yes, it is called a peninsula. Very good. So, again going back, this was in ancient times that we are talking about. So, the Deccan Plateau was very fertile and it was part of the Maurya Empire, one of the olden kingdoms, and it was a very big kingdom, the largest kingdom in ancient India. Now, we have the 5th region. I will write it on this side of the blackboard. Coastal regions. What do you mean by coastal regions? They are the ones where we have the sea on the side. So, we have one on this Bay of Bengal, this coast, and one we have on the Arabian side. So, we are talking of the Indian history, the regions in ancient India. So, in those days what happened, the coasts were very important for trade. In fact, the land route for trade came much later. It was the seaports that were used mainly for trade. So, all the trade that India carried with the other nations, the western countries, everything went through the seaports. So, they were very important for our civilization in those times. Again, you can look at your map on page 4. On the Bay of Bengal you have the eastern coast, and on the Arabian Sea you have the western coast. And all of this that we have talked about till now, it is all part of the Indian continent inside India. So, now we talk of another region which is called the islands in the sea. So, the new word that I am writing now, it is called contiguous. Spelled as CONTINGUOS. What it means is the whole thing is within one body. There is no break, there is no gap. But now we are talking of another region. So, please write this down, contiguous. All these regions that we talked of, the Himalayas, the plains of Sindhu, Ganga, Brahmaputra, the Thar desert, the Deccan Plateau, the coastal regions, everything falls inside India. So now we are going to talk of the islands. They are outside India, but they also belong to the region. These are called islands in the sea. So this also belongs to part of the within the Indian map. So let us see what those islands are. Do you see these tiny islands here to the east side? They are called the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the very tiny ones. Yes. So there are 572 islands here, and 37 of the islands there is nobody stays there. It is not habited, it is uninhabited. So on this side you have the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now let us see, there is one more called Lakshadweep. So the Lakshadweep Islands are also part of India, and they are on the west side of India in the Arabian Sea. So let us write that down. Let me just so this is islands in the sea. I am writing it here. We have the Andaman, and Nicobar Islands, plus we have the Lakshadweep Islands. Lakshadweep means it is a Sanskrit word. It is, Dweep is an island, Laksha is 100,000. So the meaning actually is 100,000 islands. So that brings us to the end of the second part of the lesson, which was the geographical features of India. Then we finally come to the last part of the chapter, which is the Indian subcontinent. So when we talk of the Indian subcontinent, it is also called South Asia. There are 7 countries in this what we call Indian subcontinent or South Asia. It is, we have Sri Lanka, we have India, we have Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan. So that makes it 7. So these are, though China is here, but it is not part of the Indian subcontinent or not part of South Asia. So let me just write it down for you in the order. I will just erase this side. So what I am writing now is the countries in the Indian subcontinent. So first we have Afghanistan. Where is Afghanistan? It is here. Then we have Pakistan, which is here. We have Nepal, we have Bhutan, I will write the rest here. We have Bangladesh on this side, and then finally these are other than India. This does not include India, I am going to write that also. Then lastly we have Sri Lanka. All these plus our country, they add up to the subcontinent. Let me write this clearly. They are also called countries in South Asia. So, these 7 countries make up the countries in South Asia, India plus its 6 neighbors. That brings us to the end of the chapter. So, we saw what history was all about and how the 4 major pillars of history was time, place, society, individuals, and then we saw the regions of ancient India that have impacted our history, and finally we saw the countries of South Asia. Thank you.